Rice Fame Group supports the legacies of HBCUs.
Hello, this is Lacey L. Rice Jr. of Rice Fame Group, welcoming you to our new episode of Chat with HBCU Champions, Season 4. And this time we're featuring head coach David Oliver of Howard University Women's Track and Field, whose team won the 2005 MEAC, or Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, Indoor and Outdoor Championships. So congratulations once again, Coach. We're glad that we see you pretty much every year.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
There's a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks, Lacey, for having me again. It's a couple years in a row now, and it's fantastic to be here, part of the champions discussion, like you said, year after year, but, you got to be a champion year after year to be on the show. So I don't mind coming here for the rest of my coaching career, hopefully.
Well, you've definitely done something since you've been there at Howard. You've made that a perennial powerhouse, especially within the conference. We know you've won several awards throughout your relatively short time there at Howard. And, it's great that Howard is able to bring one of his own back to take over the program. And not only on the women's side, but also on the men's side, they've been doing some great things as well. And one of these days, we'll be talking about them.
Yeah. One day that's the goal for sure. It's just, at Howard is a difficult on the men's side. Just when we're talking about being a private institution, pretty much the only private institution in our conference, and the academic requirements that come with that, as well as the financial commitment that comes with attending a private school in Washington, D.C. When you think about the costs of Georgetown or George Washington, American University, or other private schools in the area, it's not really going to add up as far as the men compared to the women's side when we're trying to build a program. But we do a great job on the national level, and to me, that's the most important piece of track and field, is being relevant on the national level.
Okay, and now that you said that, I've never thought about the fact that you were the only private institution in that conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, once Hampton left the conference, that just left us as the only private school. So, like I said, the academics, the cost, there is no such thing as in-state tuition. It's going to cost the same whether you come from across the street or you come from Mars. It's going to be expensive to go to Howard. And, when we're talking about the men's scholarships in track and field, prior to kind of the changes that have happened, or that, last week, 12 scholarships as a fully funded program, that's not a lot of dollars when you kind of factor out how much you're going to have to give to a kid to make it worth their while. I can't give a 50% scholarship because you still got to come up with $25,000 plus more dollars, even though we're covering 50%. If the school costs $18,000, $20,000, I give you a 50% scholarship. $10,000, $5 a semester, maybe a little bit more manageable. So, it's just, we have to make sure our resources are kind of going into different avenues, and we may just not be able to have as strong of a men's team for a conference level where you need 27 kids to make something happen for you. But nationally, maybe we could make something happen there.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because ironically, one of the things I tell people from time to time, after I graduated from high school and took the SATs and ACTs, I was immediately accepted into two schools that I didn't even know my test scores went to. One of them was Morehouse, and the other one was Howard.
Oh man, see, that's great.
And so, and unfortunately, to the matter that you just spoke about, I couldn't afford to go to either one. I did not want to take out a big loan or anything else like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had a small scholarship to a public school in Kentucky that I actually had to turn down, and just I had to go to school according to my means at that particular time.
Yeah,
So,
I mean that makes sense. We got to do what makes the most sense. I tell the kids all the time that I work with the decisions that we make, it's got to either make sense, SENSE, or CENTS. One of those two. It's got to be fit into one of those categories. If it doesn't, then we got to look at something a little bit different. And when we're making a decision on going to school, after 4 years, maybe 5 years, whatever the commitment was, not even including postgraduate programs or something like that, it's something that we got to look into. So, I think a full scholarship for a freshman at Howard with tuition fees, housing, meals is upwards of about $51,000. So, women, we do have more access to scholarship dollars on that side, and our women student athletes in high school, maybe tend to take the academic side a bit more serious. So they have a bit more access to the academic scholarships that we do offer at Howard. We offer a substantial amount of academic aid, but, you got to qualify. When we're talking about an average, this incoming class has an average GPA of 3.45 and SAT score of 1260. So that's pretty much the average student that's been accepted to the university. I don't know how many of your top level male track and field athletes are kind of be hovering around that average, if you know what I mean. So I know with my academic resume in high school, I may not have been able to gain acceptance to Howard, in 2025 compared to fall 2000. So the school is really moving up, as you know, U.S. News and Report. I think we're ranked the number 85 or 86th best school in the country, basically, the best college and national universities by their metrics. So I don't know how many schools there are in the United States, but to be ranked in the mid 80s out of them all, that's a pretty high standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah, because there are, I mean, just looking at Kentucky, and size wise, we're not necessarily a huge state. And, you talking about 50 some states, and then your territories as well, which Howard is in one of the territories, along with Puerto Rico, Guam, the Virgin Islands, or the U.S. Virgin Islands. Kentucky has probably around 30 colleges and universities.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, so you're probably talking about well over. I'm just gonna throw a number out there, probably maybe 1,200. Let's say.
I think it's got to be more than that. I think that we probably typed in how many colleges and universities are in the United States in the territories. I think we probably are multiple thousands. Got to be.
Yeah, and so that coming up as the 85th best in the country, that says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Because I think DC alone probably has 15 or 16 colleges, and what are we? Probably 10 square miles. And we got about 17 colleges and universities inside our borders.
Right. Well, I do remember the last time I was in DC. I did walk from. See, I was staying in a hotel across from the zoo.
Oh yeah, yeah. And most
And,
of us are in Northwest Washington D.C. The zoos in Northwest, like all the big ones are in Northwest. Ourselves in Georgetown, George Washington, American. Even just across, a couple of blocks on the other side, you got, Catholic, Trinity, those are major schools, and right up the street, UDC. So it's a lot of, the Division One, Division Two, Three colleges right there with really good athletic programs too.
Right. And I mean, DC's a great place. You mentioned that 10 square mile. I walked from that hotel all the way down to the government area, the federal government areas, the Smithsonian and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now I took the train back. But I did make that walk, and I guess DC probably about the ideal size for a lot of people if they want to be in a city, they want to be around a lot of different action and culture and everything else. But once again, to have all these institutions too that you mentioned, and then not only that, but also having the things like the Smithsonian, like the U.S. Capitol, the White House, all these different agencies, and everything is kind of crammed into that.
Yeah, no space.
Right.
That was one of the things I loved the most about being in when I went to undergrad at Howard, and it was a lot of learning that happened off the campus. It wasn't just 24 hours a day on our beautiful campus in Northwest DC. So it's just a lot going on, like you say. We have access to 3 airports, so you can definitely get where you need to go pretty much on a direct flight 9 times out of 10. So it's a very happening area. I would definitely love being back in this area, especially, raising a son in this area. You see a lot of people that look like us that are extremely successful and got a lot going on. And, it's a departure from, when we were living in Florida. So really love being back in this area.
Well, and then now that you mentioned that, when you talk about some of the advantages of going to Howard, you're in the DMV. You have a lot more access to people who look like us. You have a lot of access to just diversity, period. Not only that, if you're blessed enough, you might be able to become a page or work at the Capitol, get your internships and everything else, depending on what your aspirations are. And then when you listen many times, you hear the name Howard being mentioned in various spaces. Because of the alumni. And it was really weird today, knowing that you were coming on. I was reading an article, a local article, and it was through Newsbreak, which is national. And that particular article was about a Howard alum in Louisville, Kentucky, who had started a pre-K through 8th grade academic school. And so, and I just looked at it and marveled. I was like, hold up, she's from Howard. She's in Louisville, Kentucky. What's going on?
Yeah, we have a lot of people with our alumni base, and just even student enrollment is far-reaching. We have at least one student on campus from every single state in the country, and I think it was something like 33 different countries we have students enrolled in. So everybody looks at HBCUs and things like that like it's a monolith, but honestly, it's extremely diverse. Of course, I've never spent time at any other university other than Howard, let alone like an HBCU or anything like that. But I don't really know how it may be at other places. Maybe you go to Texas Southern, and most of the kids are going to be from the area or something like that, possibly. I don't know, but with Howard and DC, like these kids, we come from everywhere. It is really a diverse situation, even amongst ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Louisville, shoot, we got a lot of, yes, I mean, I have 2 alums in my program that are from Louisville, 2 recent alums. So, and they're doing great things, and so I wouldn't, you name a city, I wouldn't be surprised if we have representation from that area.
Okay. Well, and not to toot Kentucky's horn too much, but thankfully, we have had some of your former teammates and other alumni from USA Track and Field who have spent time here to help elevate the track and field community in Kentucky, and of course that was initiated by the legendary Jackie Joyner Kersey and Sharifa Barcel.
Yeah.
And so, and of course, and I'm gonna give her a shout out. She's one of my favorite people. Sharifa is just amazing, and I know that she has a relationship with all of you. She was I'm assuming she's still the director of alumni for USA Track and Field. But and the weird thing about that, our relationship is that she was the head coach at Kentucky State briefly.
Yeah, that is right. Yeah. You guys got a lot Kentucky got a lot going on, especially Louisville. I mean, we were there for a couple of meets this indoor season, and the facility is just outstanding. We had that HBCU National Championship meet, the first edition this past indoor season. And I mean, it was fantastic. I can't wait to see how it goes and how it looks this March. Should have a wider range of participation, and they just do a fantastic job at that facility with the ownership group and the people. They just love the sport, and I think that's what we need more than anything are people that's willing to invest their time and money into the sport and make it big. And I think that when we're talking about what you guys have there in Louisville, that at that indoor track, it's up there. It's got to be top 4, top 5 out of all the facilities, indoor track facilities in the country. Mm-hmm. So it's great to see. I watch it. I see ACC championships when I'm watching on TV. It's like, wow, this looks great, and all the other meets that I've just watched on TV. When you're in the mix and you're at the facility, it's like, you're wandering around trying to get things done. But when you're able to sit back and actually kind of look at what's going on, you're like, wow, this is, I'm just thankful we got a chance to compete at a place like this.
Right. And shout out to former University of Louisville head coach Dale Cowper, who actually played a role in Kentucky State University being able to get access to host meets like that at that facility, because that facility, from what I've been told, is booked up at least for like the next 5 years or so. So, and hopefully when you come next year, we will actually meet face to face.
Right. Yeah.
Right up
been
the
there
road
twice. Like, where you been at, man? I came to the city twice this past year, twice in 2024. You're nowhere to be found, man.
Yeah, I have to come out there and because normally they will try to get me to officiate, and I keep having to remind them I'm also part of media, and especially when it comes to HBCU, it's kind of hard for me to officiate and do media work at the same time.
Right.
And so, Yeah, and but I am friends. I'm part of the officiating family out of Kentucky, and so like I said, one way or another, I will be there next year. I guarantee you that.
Perfect.
Especially since I kept throwing that gem in their ear. Hey, HBCU Championship. There's nobody doing that right now. HBCU
Exactly.
Championship. Let's get that done.
I mean, and Miss Reynolds there, she's really taken the mantle up and really pushed and made it happen. I mean, it's a lot of people involved, like Tim King and others that have done a great job. But Miss Reynolds has really been pushing that heavy. So I'm hoping to see that really pick up in 2026.
Okay, okay. And we gonna make it work. We definitely gonna make it work. Even if I'm not officiating, hopefully I can be part of the production side to
That'd
make
be
sure
great.
that everything goes well for you guys.
I mean, add the live stream and everything like that, step that up and be able to maybe do some live interviews trackside with the winners, just build it up more as a championship event. So it would be, I mean, it's got a lot of growth opportunities that competition does because it's been probably 20 years since we've had something like that and give a opportunity for us to really crown a HBCU national champion like we do pretty much in the other main big time sports too. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we gonna make that happen. I got some other ideas I'm about to pitch to them as well. So some other ideas to bring you guys to Kentucky based on past events that we've hosted as a officials group or a track and field group out of Kentucky. Well, track and field and cross country. Let me say
yeah,
that.
we gotta have it.
Track
Yeah,
Yeah, because we have hosted several national championships in Louisville for cross country. So we know we have the capacity to do that as well. So yeah, I say I'm going to be pushing.
well, that's good. That's good. Well, look forward to seeing you over there sometime in 2026.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so let's talk a bit about you and your career. We've done some of that in the past. However, you're one of the most modest athletes I've ever met because you do love talking about your athletes more than you like talking about yourself. And which that could be a great example for many more. I won't mention any names of people who like patting themselves on the back, but
Well, there's nothing wrong with patting yourself on the back. You don't work this hard to kind of just uh, try to play the background or not really let it be known. You earn the right to. For
mm-hmm,
me, I always tell them all the time, I'm not Visa or MasterCard. I'm not in the credit business. I had my career as an athlete. It was fantastic. I'm not really chasing any glory days that I didn't have on the backs of these student athletes. It's really just to see them do well. When they win, they did that. I'm not gonna be all in the pictures and running down on the track, making it, be seen about me or anything like that. But that's not my demeanor. That's their moment. And yeah, we're gonna celebrate and we're gonna, have a great time. But for me, it's always there's still something next. It's like we got to get to what's next. We got to get to what's next, and that's kind of always been my mentality. But like I said, my Wikipedia page or all that stuff's closed when it comes to getting results for
mm-hmm,
myself. I like telling them I don't run track for Howard. You do. So you got to represent the university and this team and make sure that your teammates are on the same page because I am here to facilitate. I'm no different than the professor in the classroom. The professor in the classroom, they have their degree already.
mm-hmm,
They're there to assist you and help you get yours. Like I've got my results already. I'm here to give everything I have to assist you in getting your results. But if you don't want to do what it takes, then that's on you. You know, like they say, lead a horse to water, can't make him drink type of thing. But I would love for everybody to do. That's one thing with coaches in the credit piece is, you know, and they're like always talking about the athletes that are killing it and things like that. But, you know, on my roster, I have probably 40 women on the team, but, you know, only 26 of them can make it to the conference meet. And of 26 at that conference meet, probably only about 14 are making it to the national meet. So if you want to take credit for the ones that are doing great and you have 5 of them that score at the national meet, but you got 40 kids. So what's up with the other 30? You know, you can't just take all the credit for this handful that's killing it. You got to take credit for everybody. So I'd rather just sit there and let them have the credit because they're the ones that produce those results. I'm in the crowd, no different than any other fan when it comes time to go and perform. So I give them everything that I have from a coaching standpoint and would love to see them do well, but I'm not going to, you know, just talk about how great of a coach I am. Now, I do feel like I am very spectacular coach when it comes to, you know, sprints, hurdles, things like that. The results speak for themselves. But now, if you talk about me as an athlete, I'm gonna let you know about that because that's a lot of hard work. You know, being an athlete, like you, I tell them often, you know how hard it is to be the best in the world at something. There is no, like, it's very straightforward of who's the best in the world. Like how many people there are in the world, how hard it is to be the best. And I've done that several times. I've been the best in the world at what I do. And so they were like, you know, when I became a coach, they're like, oh, do you feel like you don't have the experience or, you know, do you feel like you'll do a good job and this, that, and that? I was like, I do a good job at pretty much everything I do. So I feel like this will be no different. And, you know, here we are 7 years in, we've won 8 championships on the women's side. You know, we've built into a top 30 program in the country and we want to keep that going. And so people are like, oh man, are you surprised? I'm not surprised because I know what my ability is we just have to make sure we get the kids in that have the same want to.
Right. And well, you mentioned being the best in the world, but you're also one of the best of all times for the United States and for your event. But once again, you're one of the best of all time in your event, and you know there aren't that many people, period, that can say that about anything. And so, you know, we do, you know, I don't know on your side if you hear it, but, you know, I always see these debates about MJ, LeBron, Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
You know, who's the GOAT? You know, and then they, you know, they leave out Magic Johnson, Larry Bird,
right?
You know, and Jerry West and some of these other greats. But, you know, you start talking about men's hurdling, there's only so many names that can be mentioned as far as that GOAT in that GOAT conversation as being, you know, the best around, the ones that have performed on the international level and represented this nation at the highest levels. And you're in that conversation.
Yeah, and it's always good to be, you know, recognized or when people bring that up. And yeah, it's always a GOAT debate about, you know, whatever. But to me, I always think the GOAT is really should be GOTE, greatest of their or that era, because I just don't think that trying to compare eras. I think it's an exercise in futility, to be honest. There's, you know, Jordan and LeBron, you know, there's the rules and whether even it comes to acquiring players or, you know, actual rules in the games, all those things are so much different. You know, the league is more of a cardio type of league now than it is like more physical. It's no different than you're trying to talk about somebody in track and field. You know, the tracks and spikes and equipment and training modalities and all those types of things are far more different now than they were, you know, even 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Everybody talks about the track spikes and the super spikes, and but we still have never seen somebody in the 100 meters run as fast as Usain Bolt, Tyson Gay, Johan Blake, or Justin. We still haven't seen these people in this Super Spikes era run those type of performances. So it was like, what were those guys going to run if they were in this era, like in 2025? Usain ran 9.5. What's he running, 9.3 or something? so it's just hard to compare eras. It's good conversation fodder, but like you said, it's only a handful of people. Even if it's 10, 15 people that'll make a list of who they consider the greatest basketball hurdler, sprinter, whatever. You know how many people do that event or play in that sport for you to even be amongst the top 15 or 20 names that people think of? It's pretty unbelievable when you sit back and think about it. For myself, coming from the background that I come from, I was not a track and field athlete per se. Wasn't highly recruited out of high school. Even in college, was not a national champion. Wasn't getting big deals out of college. Really had to grind and work extremely hard for just that foothold in the sport, and then able to kind of grow with the ability and God-given talent and the great coaching that I was receiving, strength conditioning, on the track, whatever, and make it. But at the end of the day, that too, I probably had 40 different training partners over my years of working down there, and not every one of them made it. So I think when you're talking about people making it to a different level, I think the ability to dominate between that left and right ear, that's what gets it done. Because the physical, everybody's got the physical ability, some a little bit more than others, of course. That's why you see somebody like a Usain Bolt who becomes unbeatable pretty much once the physical and talent and stuff like that starts matching up. But you got to be able to dominate mentally, and that's one of the things, back to being coaching, that I feel like is the biggest thing for these athletes, and what I like to work on more than anything is just kind of see where they're at mentally, where their mind is at mentally. I have a lot of athletes that come from some of your big time programs that don't perform at those big time programs, but it's not because the coach doesn't know what they're doing. Because you look at the program, you're like, oh, wow, they won a national championship. They got these young ladies running 10 seconds in the 100 or doing all these great things. But so it's not the coaching, so it's the athlete. And so you just try to work on their mentality and what their expectations are of themselves, and just try to build that up over time. And I think that's why we see a lot of the results that we've gotten from the athletes that have come through the program, because none of them were highly sought after student athletes, to be honest.
And one thing that put everything into perspective for me was several years ago, pre-COVID. It was probably 10 years, somewhere between 10 to 15 years ago. I was at a coach's clinic in Louisville, and Dwight Stone was the guest speaker. He was the keynote speaker for our luncheon. And his speech, and I have it recorded because he asked me to, but his speech was about winning. And, he was one of the guys, during his era, and even now, just looking it up, he's still considered the best all-time, American high jumper. But he missed out on gold several times, and he kind of put the perspective of winning and being a top in a place where all I could do was just shake my head, like, yeah, he's right. Because what's that saying that Ricky Bobby had on Talladega?
If you're not first, you're last.
If you're not first, you're last. Which of course his daddy cleaned it up later. It was like, oh, that's stupid.
Right.
But Dwight took that, and it was like, well, just because I got second or third doesn't necessarily make me a loser or anything, especially when you consider how many high jumpers there are around the world who did not make it to the
Right.
So, and
I
so
mean, that's
it's
the
like,
thing with our sport,
yeah,
because it's really just on that day. You could be the best that's ever walked the earth, but when you
mm-hmm,
line up on that day, you might have got sick or food poisoning the night before, and there is no
mm-hmm,
game 2 or game 7, or it's right there in that moment in those handful of seconds that you have to be the
mm-hmm,
best,
mm-hmm,
and then you live in infamy. So it's I mean, I got a bronze medal at the Olympic Games. Nobody says, "Oh, you lost the bronze or
mm-hmm,
you lost the silver." It's like you won because it's
mm-hmm,
incredibly hard to stand on a podium where you're talking about the top 3 athletes in the entire world at what you
mm-hmm,
do. So, and we're really talking about an entire worldwide event. So
mm-hmm,
it's not even, we're not saying like, that it's just a team thing or, there's
mm-hmm.
nobody to hide behind in this sport. You
Right.
have to make it happen. And I mean, the track's not the only sport. Of course, you just swimming and dive and tennis and all of those sort of sports as well. But it's just on that day. And Dwight
Mm-hmm.
Stones, even though he may not have won all the stuff, but everybody still looks and is like, yeah, he's one of the best that's ever lived.
Mm-hmm. And so, and even through this conversation is just, things are milling through my mind right now, because now we also not only collegiates and professionals, we got to take in consideration high schoolers now, because we have had high schoolers, you know, uh, man, we've had a number of high schoolers to make the Olympic team,
That's the
or
beauty of the
people,
sport.
yeah, yeah,
It doesn't have an age group or qualification or classification or anything. It's can you line up no matter if you're 10 years old or 100 years old and go out there and
mm-hmm,
compete with the best. There's no barrier to entry.
mm-hmm,
If you're 15 years old, and you're able to go run 43 seconds in the 400. It doesn't matter who, what age you are, that you're amongst the best in the world. And now it's
mm-hmm,
about producing that when you step on the track with the other people that's best in the world. Once again, that's the mentality factor, or the ability to kind of dominate what's between your left and right ears. That is what comes into play. But when it comes to just the physical time or the performance, there is no barrier there. You can line it up, and that's what is great about this. It doesn't matter how young, how old, how tall, how short, none of it. It's just about can you perform.
mm-hmm. And so, with that being said, I know that the athletes that you have there at Howard have to be some of the top in the world. I know institutions like Howard and many of our HBCUs have embraced bringing in international athletes, or wherever they can find
Yeah,
them, they bring.
yeah. Once again, it doesn't matter where you're from. Can you perform?
Right.
You're America, this country, that country, wherever. That the performance is the performance.
Hmm. Hmm. And so, with that, tell us about some of the young ladies that you have there at Howard, because I did enjoy watching the NCAA championships. I enjoyed seeing that Bison uniform out there in some of those races. And so, tell us about some of your young ladies.
Well, yeah. So the team, like I said, has just been fantastic to work with, and this year was no different. You know, with the acquisition of Marcia Say, who came to us from Ohio State this year. She, was one of those ones that was underperforming at her previous school. That's mainly was a personal thing because that program is producing fantastic sprinters and hurdlers on the women's side for probably the last 15 years. But she came to this environment and was a little bit more to whatever she needed, I guess, and has been able to take off. She got third at the national meet in the 100-meter hurdles, which was the highest finisher at a national meet that we've ever had. I came fourth. We had a couple relays that came fourth throughout the history of time, but we've not had anybody be on the podium with a gold, silver, or bronze medal. And she was the first. So that was, and then running second leg on our 4x1, which we got to the finals of the national meet for the first time in program history there as well, and finished sixth. So, she came in immediately, kind of changed the fortunes of the program. She's from Great Britain, so she's still continuing to run. She has her national championships coming up in a couple of weeks with a nice shot at making the world championship team for Great Britain. It's been a pleasure to work with, and just look forward to seeing some really special things from her going forward. And, we think we've lost a couple of our seniors that graduated this year that would be remiss without mentioning them. Tiffany Ray Pittman, who's came in, she made it to the national meet in the relays, 4x4, 4x1, whichever, every single year that she was in school. From freshman year till now, for 4 years, making it to the national meet. That was that's unprecedented. And she's one that was a little overlooked in recruiting, and it came in and really became kind of continued to keep us on the map with the bridging the gap from the previous generation of Jessica Goodbyes in that group that, she made the final at the Olympic Games last year, has been killing it post collegiately, and into this new group and this new era of collegiate athletics. And, we wouldn't be where we are kind of without her at all. That anchor leg, she's made it her own, and, for 4 years, and never had a drop baton, never had, those type of issues. The most reliable kind of person I've ever had on the team, pretty much. And then Kai Collins, who made it to semifinals in the Open 100. We have, once again, never had anybody on the national level in the 100 meters on the women's side, making an impact like that. And she's running 11-1, and another transfer from a school that came in last year, and has won about 5 or 6 gold medals in her time here individually, and kept us on top of the heap when it comes to the conference meet, and really just opening up doors and eyes to other people that are really good, that are like, oh, well, Howard is a place that I can make it. Howard's a place that, hey, well, I can come here and run fast. You got to kind of change the kind of what the outlook is on the program, because people think of Howard are like, well, I don't really know. I know they do schoolwork, but do they run fast? And we're showing that when it comes to being an actual student athlete, that this is the best of both worlds, honestly. And the hurdlers, we had 5 women that made it to the national meet in the first round, and we had 2 throwers out there, had a shot putter make it for the first time in our program history, and a couple of women in the triple jump, and we're just all over. Every time you see an event, we might have somebody in there, and now we want to just see if we can keep progressing that 2026 going forward to see if we can just keep doing better. The goal is to see if we can be a top 20 program now, and just keep pushing the envelope in that regard.
So how did things go during your indoor season at the end?
Indoor season went well. Won the conference championship on the women's side again, and won the HBCU national meet on the men and women's side. Indoor, when we're talking about like maybe making the NCAA championships, it's a little tough. I always am preparing them for the outdoor season year round, so we don't really spend all that much focus on trying to peak for the indoor track season. So, and to be in the top 16 in the country in your event, that's the only people that get to go. It's top 16. So it's incredibly difficult to do that as well. So we've gotten close over the years, but I feel like as an indoor team, as long as we just still are relevant at the conference level and just keep making some headway into that national conversation indoor, that's cool. But For me, indoor, there's a reason why the season is pretty much all of January and February. And we got the outdoor season, March, April, May, June, and, still here in July, because all indoors does is show you where outdoor is at. And that's what we get ready for. That's what everybody remembers. I remember talking to our athletic director, Kerry Davis, some years ago, just about just sports in general. Like you're in the fall sports, nobody pays any attention because it's during football season. No matter what your fall sports are doing, you got the best cross country team in the world, whatever. Nobody's really paying attention because it's football. That's what we do. Winter's the same. It's basketball season. That's what everybody's paying attention to. No matter how great your winter sports are doing, it's all about basketball. That's November, December, January, February, March. But now when you're talking about, end of March, April, May, June, that part of the calendar can be dominated by your softball and your baseball, your track and field, because those are the major sports going on at that time of the year. Right. And so, when you're talking about trying to where you can dominate the calendar at when you're looking at, because I was a marketing major at Howard, so I think about all those types of things. Is to make sure that your name is ringing out when the visibility and the eyeballs are watching exactly what you're doing. And that's going to be in, like I said, March, April, May, June. That's when everybody's going to be with their eyes on your outdoor track and things like that. So yeah, you want to be good in all the other areas, of course, but people are really going to be paying attention to that outdoor season, because there is no basketball or football going on that's going to dominate all of the headlines.
Right. Well, now that you mentioned it, and I should have done a better job of looking at this. You did win the men's indoor national championship. So let's talk about your men's team then.
Yeah. Well, the guys, they're yes, pretty kind of a young team. We were definitely led by Noah Langford, who won the conference championship, outdoor in the 110 hurdles and the 400 hurdles. And, it was named All-American in the 400 hurdles outdoors as well in the 4x4. Our 4x4 team did spectacular. We had two freshmen, a sophomore, and Langford as a senior on that team that ran 3:03 and made it to the national meet. That was our first appearance at the national final site since, I want to say, 1989 or 1990, somewhere in there. I don't remember offhand, but our team was dominant in the 1980s, for every year. The 4x4 team was in there. They ran 3:03, but the school record still 3:02.66 from 1982 or 84. So they still got ways to go on that side, but just turning it around a bit there. Even like when we're, with the national meet, we had a great group of jumpers. But that's what the program is. We're not really there matching up with on the sprint side pretty much as the women, but they're and we're more known for the short hurdles, of course. Like last year we had about 4 guys or 5 guys that qualified for the NCAA first round meet, and only returned one of those guys, and he was able to kind of make it in both again this year. But it starts with the indoor season, of course, building confidence and going to that HBCU national meet and being able to show show some ability to win. And it's always a good feeling when you can win and perform, and they're able to do that. And that was a good springboard to the outdoor season. As a program in general this year, I was just updating, with the company that did our record board and stuff, and we had 25 school records that were set this year, and like through cross country, indoor and outdoor track, and it was like, wow. So this was definitely a fantastic season had on both sides, and the men are a little bit overshadowed by the women, of course, because that's just by nature. People always talk about the winners. You know, I talk to them all the time. They're like, "Oh, coach, you just talk about the women or this, that." I was like, "Yeah, people love winners. You want to get talked about, get attention, and get all those things. You become a winner, then nobody has any choice but to talk about you." So, but yeah, we can be winners, but just maybe in our own way. Maybe it won't be the same as winning conference titles or something like that. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get there. We keep striving for that. But yeah, we're just I want us to be relevant on the national level on the men's side.
Okay. And it makes sense, because once that name gets out, of course, I'm pretty sure you probably have a lot of phone calls and emails coming your way anyway, based off of what you're doing. But once you can get the men up to where the women are on the outdoor side, oh man, I just hate to be in your shoes.
Well, it's just like now, still out at practice. Haven't had a break. Got a couple of days off with the holiday this past weekend. But the flip side is, I remember what it was like when I first got here and first started, and we would only get one kid that could qualify for the first round at the national meet. We're scoring 1 point at the conference championship. I don't want to go back to that either. I'd rather just be working still now, because that at least means that your program is doing well. And that's what we want. We want the program to do well, to make sure that we're representing the school and representing ourselves in an extremely good way, because that's what matters more than anything.
Yeah, and I definitely know how that is, and I don't think I'll come out of retirement to coach again. But my last coaching experience wasn't necessarily the highlight of my career, because you go to state and none of your kids score. You get a couple who are close.
Yeah.
But like I told everybody that particular year, and on the boys side, we were just coming off of a state championship, but coming off of that state championship, we lost our two best sprinters. They transferred out. I had the one kid who definitely could have scored at state. He was like the second best 110 hurler in the state. When I had to put him out, I had to let him go, because he wasn't doing what I was expecting. He was supposed to be the leader of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the girls' side too, I had to say goodbye to my best girl, who definitely, in fact, she was a returning scorer at state from the previous year, and was definitely going to be top 3 in the 100, at least in the 100 and 200. But I had to let her go. And so, what I told that team, though, was, as long as you peak at regions or state, I'm happy. I want you to score. And if you peak at state and you don't score, I can't say anything.
Yeah.
Because you did the best you could do. Just
sometimes people are just better.
Yeah.
That's why I tell them sometimes, hey, look, sometimes you just get your butt whooped, and it's okay. If you went out there and you performed the best you've ever performed or close to it, and it wasn't enough, you just got to put your hands up and be like, hey, they were just better on that day. But yeah, I'm with you. And like you said, it sucks sometimes that you got to let your kids go, or people that you had high expectations for. But you can never let the standard drop of what the expectation is of what's going to happen in the program. I don't have any problem. I tell them all the time, kids come, they go. My coach had to find a way to replace me, because after 4 years, I got to go, whether I want to or not. So if you're doing things, hey, maybe you're only here for a year, 2 years, whatever, but the program will continue to go on. And as long as I'm in charge and running it, it's got to be done a certain way. So, yeah, sometimes you got to go and take a L, even as a coach, to just make sure that the standard never wavers. The one time that we were in a situation to actually win the conference championship on the men's side a few years ago, I had to offload an entire group of athletes because they weren't doing the right thing. And we went out there, and I think we lost the conference championship by about probably 20 points. And I had 3 event groups with nobody competing in them because I didn't allow them to compete.
Right.
And so I could have been, sacrifice the moral standings of whatever's going on and let them go out there and compete and win and things like that. But to me, it's not that important because then they think that that's okay. Right. And once again, the standard is got our team slogan. The slogan is be the standard. That the first group that I had, that's what they came up with for a team motto, and that's what we've stuck with the whole time I've been, running the program here. And I think about that often. Like that is everywhere. And it's like we know what that is. We know what the standard is, and you got to live up to it. If not, you have to be replaced.
Right. And I think that's probably one of the best lessons a coach can teach an athlete is integrity.
Yeah.
Because we can take shortcuts and we can do this and we can do that. It's you got this talent or whatever. And actually, a sad note, one of the coaches who helped me a lot when I was developing a specific program, she was just let go because of she was let go because she took a stand on an athlete who didn't do what that athlete was supposed to do. But the parent, started whining and crying to administrators, and the administrators found in favor of the athlete over the coach. So now this coach who actually built that program is not going. It was being told we're looking to go in a different direction. Well, what direction are you looking to go?
Well, like I always feel chase happiness, chase good management. When it comes to your career stuff, everything else falls into play. Don't really make moves for money and this, that, and the third because, it comes and goes. And that's probably the best thing for them. The management clearly was not good for you. If they know that you're pretty much in the right but going to side with somebody else, that's clearly not the place that you want to be. And so, I mean, it's short-term loss, but I'm pretty sure a long-term gain because, those people aren't aligned with what your morals are and what you find important when you're talking about being in charge of these young adults. And she'll be perfectly fine because everybody knows what type of coach she is. So it's like I said, short-term loss, but she'll bounce back and be perfectly fine. And that school probably more than likely struggle. And everybody like, oh man, remember when we used to be so good? That's what's gonna happen. We see it all the time. We see it all the time. The school will probably come back to her, begging her to come back, and hey, those administrators are there. Yeah, don't even entertain that.
Right. I mean, the same thing well, not exactly what happened to her, but I've had instances before too where administrators stepped in to make me let an athlete compete, and I mean, I already knew that was going to be my last year in that particular program anyway. It was a program that I was allowed to build. And but I had other aspirations, and so it just so happened I had a kid who I had to suspend right before state, and all my kids knew what the rule of the entire program was. If you don't show up to practice the week of a meet, especially a meet that's on a Saturday, you're not going to compete on that Saturday. Well, this kid didn't show up. He played another sport. He was hanging out with the other people, and the events coach, his events coach for us, told me that he didn't show up. And then I ended up talking to his other coach, and his other coach was like, "Yeah, man, I was kind of wondering why he was up here with us, because we just hee hawing around. We're in our off season and everything. We're not doing anything." And so it's like, hey, I had to call the parent. It was like, your son's not gonna be able to compete at state. But what she do? Went and ran to the administration, and and then the administration found in their favor, and I didn't initially know about that. But the kid shows up before we get ready to leave for state, and I'm like, well, what are you doing here?
Right. You're done, man.
Yeah, but but the one thing I can say about that is I maintain my integrity over it, because the school had to pay an extra fee because he was not on my start list. And so, they had to pay an extra fee for this kid to compete, and he ain't even played. I'm like, what was it worth it to the school?
Well, that's a problem with the accountability, though. That's why you look at those situations. You're like, okay, I couldn't imagine if I'm missing practice and the coach called my mom and told her, yeah, he's not running. He done missed practice, and we have a meet. You know what the rules are. There's no way my mom would have been calling somebody else to try to get me put back in. Like there's no way. She'd have been calling me. That's the only person she would have been talking to was me. So that's just a lot of this enabling, man. It's unfortunate because you'll learn that's like, oh well, shoot, I can just get away with doing that. I can get away with what do you think you get away with next? So it's you got to be accountable, pretty much all the time when you're dealing with these, with sports and things like that. You got teammates, so it's okay for you to miss. I always feel like what you allow. You can't allow, because that kid may be a senior in the freshman or sophomore season. That's how it goes. So they're like, oh, well, I can do the same thing, whatever. And then next thing you know, you have no control over your program. So the moment administrators start stepping into your program, I take my hat off to high school coaches and folks like that, because it's a lot that you guys got to deal with that I just myself couldn't deal with. Administrator coming in and saying who can compete, who can't compete, unless it's eligibility, whatever. But saying, oh well, this kid violated a team rule, but it's okay. I couldn't imagine that.
And when you do have things like that happen, like I said, that sets a bad precedence for that kid, and tells that kid that and on the flip side of all that kid actually ended up getting kicked out of that school, and had to transfer to another school much further away, because he was breaking rules. And of course, there wasn't a sports thing, so the school found in its own.
Yeah, how convenient. How convenient.
But by the same token, even when I was coaching on the collegiate side as a volunteer events coach, I had the actual events coach had to tell some of his athletes, hey, I'm about to snatch your scholarship because you keep coming to practice late. And so you got to have those standards, and that's one of the things. A former Kentucky State University coach did a clinic for me locally. I mean, it's about 20 years ago. But one of the things he told the athletes was, you come to the collegiate side, you don't have mommy and daddy there to wake you up. We tell you got to be at practice at a certain time. That's on you. That's not on your roommate. That's not on anybody else. That's on you. And you gotta be mature enough to be able to handle being an athlete as well as being a student. And so, seeing that put into practice with that particular coach, And the kid he was threatening was actually one of mine from high school. And that kid was not like that in high school, but you get freedom and everything else. Things kind of happen, and that's why I also take my hat off to collegiate coaches, because you do have to deal with these young men and women. You have to, your part of your job is helping the young men and women to mature into responsible adults, and that's very difficult. So I definitely take my hat off to you guys.
Yes, but I mean, I think it's a little tougher on that high school level, because it's a no-cut sport, which that's an issue when you're going to the next level, because then everybody thinks that they should be running track in college because that's just what they did in high school. That's one of the biggest problems. But now with what's going on in the NCAA and the roster limits and things like that, I think a lot of that will start drying up as well. But you guys got to deal with, you got a couple ones that's extremely serious here. You got most of them that are just out here for the heck of it. You got some that I have no idea why you guys keep coming out here, but I can't get rid of you because it's a no-cut sport, and I got to deal with you and interview at meets and take you around. There's 100 of them running around and things like that. I just can't. I just couldn't deal with that. At least with us, we get complete control over the roster and who you bring in and things of that nature. Now you do have some, other things that you got to deal with, but I'd rather kind of deal with these sort of issues on the college side than high school. Because in college you got skin in the game, because you may be here and you might got that scholarship for 1 year, but you don't take care of business, you'll be back at home. You want to violate rules, come late, miss practice, do all those things, you'll be right back at home. And there is no mom to call whoever to tell them that they'll let you back on once you done violated them team rules. So,
well, explain that to us, because I know that's something that's more recent about the roster limits. I know in the past, especially with the program where I coached, which was D1, I think we had close to about 100 athletes, men and women.
Wow.
And but now is my understanding that that's been scaled down, that you can't do that now. You can't load up and maybe develop some athletes.
Well, you can have 45 women on the team, and I think 35 on the men. It really depends on the conference. Each school or conference will set whatever their limits are, because you still got to factor in Title IX, depending on what your men's sports are, things like that. Like on our end, we keep the men a little bit, not over 30, just because we want to make sure that we stay in compliance. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. But you do have some schools that may have 70 women on the team, and say 45 guys or so, 50 guys on a roster, just collecting up people for, I don't know why, but but now you can't do it. It's 45, and that's the limit. So it's unfortunate for a lot of kids that aren't in these programs, because if you're a walk-on or something like that, you probably get released because they got to bring the numbers down. I never understood, we're a small school, so I'm not a, state school that's got 60,000 kids enrolled and, all that stuff. So I don't really know how it works at that level, but I can only imagine. I can barely handle the amount of kids that we have, and it's really pretty much what that limit has been for the major schools: 45 women and 35 guys or something. That's pretty much all we've operated at anyway. So I can't imagine doing much more than that. But it'll be interesting to see, as we sit here maybe 2 years from now, to see what's really taking hold with these rule changes. But I think it is for the better, just looking at it at a glance and not really having any of the data to say if it was or it wasn't. But as I sit right here, because I firmly believe most of these kids, they don't have, I won't say most, but let's say about half of them really have no business in track and field on the Division I level. You know, if you just look at the conference championship results, and that'll give you an idea, you know, whether we're talking about the NAIA or the SEC or the SWAC, you know, see what, you know, you're looking at what it takes to score in those conferences and just using that as a barometer. There's not that many kids that, you know, really 100, you know, it's really not 100 kids. They can't come and make an impact. Right. So you're just, you know, in that, like I said, from high school being a no-cut sport, just allowing this to almost take on a club or, you know, like I say, a recreational activity type of feel. I tell the kids on my team, this is Division I athletics. This is not a recreational activity. If you're looking for recreational activities, the university is full of those, but the track and field team is not one of them. You know, this is for real. This is, you know, we need to be focused on a single solitary task as a group. And, you know, I feel like we're rowing a boat and everybody's oars got to be going the same direction. Somebody's going the other direction. A handful of people not doing anything at all because they think it's a hangout spot. Then your whole entire program just runs into problems. And I think that's what was going around, you know, before I got here. And we can't go backwards. And, you know, I think a lot of the schools, you won't be able to do that now. And it is unfortunate for the next generation of the high school kids that may be coming in, but you just got to just work, and hopefully it'll trickle down to the high school level, like with the coaches and everybody realizing, hey, we don't have time to play. Like, if you really want to make it out of here, we're really going to have to lock in and focus on what needs to be done. But because in basketball, they don't have that issue. The basketball players have been used to getting cut since they were in middle school. You didn't make the sixth grade team. You made it as a seventh grade. You made it in the eighth grade. You get to high school and you get cut because you don't make the JV squad or something like that going to high school. There's no birthright that you get to just keep playing basketball all the way through just because you did at the previous level. Just because you ran track in high school and you went to the state meet and got seventh or something like that. That's fantastic. But it's okay if your career ends at high school. Like, a lot of sports, that's how it works. Right. You know, like I said, basketball, just you might have been the star quarterback in your area, but that doesn't mean that you say I'm from Kentucky, that I'm going to go to University of Kentucky and be the quarterback for them. You know, I might have to go JUCO or something like that, work my way up to eventually becoming that, which that's a great route. So I think the talent will be trickling down a little bit more, like for our level on that non-Power 4. That next tier of schools that still have the same type of scholarship money possibly and the same opportunities, we will be hopefully be able to get access to maybe just a touch higher caliber of athlete that maybe would have gone to the big time school for a small scholarship. But now that's not available. So now they'll look at a Howard or something like that and really investigate what we're doing and be interested in coming our way.
Right. And another interesting aspect of all of that is something you mentioned, you know, okay, so you like running, you like being in track and field, but maybe you aren't D1, what many would consider D1 material. And actually, when I used to, I used to be a clinician at a lot of different clinics, and part of what I would talk about was transitioning from high school to collegiate, and I had to cover all of them because you got NCAA has 3 divisions, then you got the NAIA, the NCCAA, and the USCAA. So you have opportunity. You got to find the best fit, and it was so frustrating when I was an assistant coach on the D3 level, and to perform for us, you had to have a certain academic standard because we weren't giving athletic scholarships. Right. And I would call these guys, you know, because we're just trying to build our team. We had to have head count. And these are kids who weren't signed. And there was a reason they weren't signed. They were running at state, even though they were top runners at state in Kentucky at that time. They were running 11.0, 11.1 in the 100. I would call these kids up. Oh, well, I'm going to walk on at University of Kentucky. Did you talk to coach? I mean, it's all fine and dandy as you've enrolled at University of Kentucky, but did you actually talk to coach? Because the time that your PR is not SEC time.
Mm-mm.
And he, at the collegiate level, they don't have time to try to develop you. You have to perform as soon as you hit the track.
Well, I mean, if you're running 11.0, I mean, where are you at on the depth chart when it comes to even what it would take to progress you to becoming like a 10-1 or maybe 10-2 sprinter to help out on their relay or something like that? How long is that going to take? And then, year after year, they're going to still recruit more and more people. That's, I tell the kids on my team all the time as well. My job is every year to put the best team out that I possibly can get. It doesn't matter if it's 6-7 hurdlers or the best athletes that are pulling up and want to commit, want to come. That's my job, is to bring them in. Your job is to make sure that you are one of those best athletes so that you can travel or whatever it is that you want to do, compete, be on the relays, be like, oh my gosh, we got 6 women that run the 100 and another person that can in the hurdles that can help on the relay. Man, I may not get a chance. Well, I mean, that's on you. Like, you got to perform so that you can be, on the hierarchy of the descending order list at Howard. Right. It's my job. I'm gonna go get the best athletes year after year after year. That's available. It's not like, oh, let me not go get one of these because that might push this athlete down. It's like, you got to step up. You got to step up, and I mean, it's good for the high school kids because there's some D2, D3 programs that are killing it. I mean, it's a great opportunity for them to actually go and see some of these schools and visit them and actually get on these campuses of places they may not have heard of and really see that, oh, man, it's just all in track and field is just names.
Right.
Like when we come to the meets, you just look at the meet schedule. That's what matters. What competitions are these? Is this program going to? Because when you're talking about what conference you're in, that only matters for one meet during cross country, one meet during indoor, and one meet during outdoor. Other than that, we don't have we're in the MEAC, so we don't have to compete against just Dale State or Central, South Carolina State, Norfolk State. We don't have a schedule like that. Like if it's basketball, football, softball, whatever, we don't have to. That's not our schedule. So, go to a D2 or D3 school, you'll look up, or even the JUCO, you'll look up like, oh man, they go to all the meets that I've heard of. They're at Tom Jones, they're at Florida Relays, they're at Texas Relays, they're at LSU meet, they're at all over except just for one meet they go to their conference championship.
Right.
But other than that, I'm gonna get a chance to compete against the best, and that's just what you need.
Right, and that I used to tell people the fact that when Coach Williams was at St. Aug, D1 programs used to hate seeing them come.
Yeah.
Used to hate it.
They hate it because Coach Williams had them guys going, and that's what matters. And then that's what I love the most. Being at Howard is when you show up and everybody looks like, oh man, Howard is just everywhere. Howard's killing. Like, man, Howard, I didn't even know. It's like, yeah, now you know, now you realize, and that's cool because another program, what you doing things like that, that's what the expectation is. Right. There is no parade, there is no handshake or no ring because you did this, that, or third. Like, that's the expectation here. You a place like Howard, man, these people make it to the national meet. Heck, the AD might throw them a parade or something. Like we're going out there scoring points, making these kids can go on banners and billboards and things like that. They're on a first name basis with the athletic director at Howard because they're doing it extremely well. You at another program, you just may be one of many.
Well, as we get ready to wind down, I do want you to talk a bit about your coaching staff because we don't really get to talk about them enough.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is I wish trophies or things like that, like at the conference meet would be maybe staff of the year or something like that. Not really maybe just, head coach or coach of the year is the head coach of whichever team wins. I mean, we get it. That's how it goes. But yeah, the staff, they really don't get get the highlights, like your head person in charge. But the staff that I have is the value that they add to the program that they bring to the table is second to none. Jessica Cousins, who's our associate head coach, has been here with me the whole time, and she's really the backbone of what we have going on. Whether we're talking about the things that nobody sees, like the things that make us be able to get a team to show up to the meet and actually compete. That's kind of what she makes sure day after day after day. We get of course with the coaching piece, running the relays and doing all those things. We work well together because we are both going to be involved with the sprints. And so I might be over here doing the hurdle stuff. She's over there with the sprinters, got the same sort of coaching style. So the on the track stuff, it's great. But, the value that she brings, because you ask me questions about anything other than the track meet or the workout or something, I have no idea, but she's going to have everything under control. So really wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are as a program without her. So, and then our head cross country coach, Damian Morgan, he's been here for a few years now. He's, heads up a lot of our recruiting and just those details for us to be able to make sure that we get, kids in the door. Our cross country team and distance runners have done a fantastic job for us. We had a 800 runner, Camille Egbula, who just graduated. Can't believe I, didn't mention her. We were talking about the athletes. The first 800 runner that we ever had make it to the national meet. He was developed her. This last year, she just took it to a whole nother level. And he's just doing. I remember when I was looking for a new distance coach that it took a few months to kind of finalize a candidate because I really wanted to take my time and make sure that to find somebody that's in line and more. Not I won't say whose mentality is more along the lines of mine as well, and what their aspirations were for coaching and things like that. And there's just been a fantastic fit, and very thankful that for him to being recommended by so many people during that process, and for him to come in and just really being just exceptional. I'm really thankful for him being a part of the program. So we only have myself and those two as full-time coaches that are on campus all day, every day, pretty much. But we have a lot of our part-time coaches. Frank Rivers, that works with our horizontal jumpers. We had two women that in the triple jump out at the national meet. We had three guys out there in the long and triple jump this year. And all those kids came in as developmental athletes, and here they are. Making it to the national scenes. For the ones that we have returning, it'll be exciting to see how things go for them, this year, and then the new ones we got coming, how they're able to kind of have their development accelerated a bit. And, so it's just a lot of people that like go into the success that we have. And it's not even just coaches, people like Paul Bowden that's in our compliance office that I've got to go and meet with him often to make sure everything is in line, and that I'm not over here doing offering far too many scholarships or something that we don't have, or things like that. just people like that are, pushing stuff through admissions because we try to get some late transfers admitted, all those types of things that it takes to run a program. It's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that a lot of people don't know about, and it's so many people that make the team go. But yeah, as you stand here as the face of the program, everybody's going to come with a bunch of praise at your feet, but it's probably 10 other people minimum that you got to, that without them, there's none of this is happening at all.
Right. And I know some of the bigger conferences do have like a staff of the year award. I know the staff that I was on for indoor, they had coach of the year, they had staff of the year, which actually helped me when I became an assistant commissioner and was over track and field. I was able to come into that particular conference and change a lot of things that they were doing because they were, and I've seen it several different ways, but they were voting for the track, coach of the year. And it kind of made sense at that particular time because you could put as many athletes as you wanted into the conference championships back then. But then when I came in, it was like, no, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna only have, like, I think it was either 2 or 4 entries for individual and 1 relay per event. Because we had a school that was coming off of a national championship, and that school, like the head coach of that school was the major proponent for that change. So he was like, man, he's like, in 100, I could put my top 80 in, and we will take 1 through 8.
Hey, like, yeah, whatever the rules are, exploit them. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. But he didn't want to win like that. He wanted to, give others a chance, and we ended up changing those rules and putting some limits. And then the one major change I made was, okay, we're not gonna be voting on coach because I've seen another conference where coaches who were on the hot seat with their administration would be voted as coach of the year. They didn't come close to winning the championship, but they get coach of the year, and that was it was widely known in certain circles that was what they were doing, and so it's like, nah, we're not gonna do it that way. We, if you win, just like we were in the Big Ten no, not the Big Ten. We were in the Big East, the program where I was. We were in the Big East at that time. And so I was like, no, we're going to do like the Big East do. Or does, I'm sorry. If you win, then you coach of the year. And pretty much, we want to give an assistant coach of the year award or something like that, then that should come from the same program. Especially if they got the spread out there as far as the point.
Right.
It makes sense.
But sometimes it's just a lot of that stuff just because you win. To me, I don't really feel like that means that you are the coach of the year. Like I look at us at this year, and I look at the men's side and Coppin State and ourselves tied for runner-up this year. At the and of course, Norfolk won, earned it. They killed it as usual. But I'm looking at Coppin State, and they're there. They have like 7 guys or 8 guys on the team, and they were, tied for runner-up position to me. And then you look at our team, we got 20-some kids there. Norfolk got 20-some kids there, whatever. I'm like, man, to me, Carl Hicks, that's hella coaching. That's a hellified coaching job. That to me is coach of the year. It's not just because you win, but I know it's easiest route is, quote unquote, the most fairest thing to do. And that's also another problem I always have with the athlete of the meet or whatever is whoever scored the most points, but I'm looking up and, there's a distance runner that ran the 10,000, the 5,000, the steeplechase, because it's them and 4 other athletes in there, and none of them people are going to the national meet. And I know a couple times I done had a girl in there. She done won the 1, the 2, that we won the 4x1, and she was on the 4x4 going home with 4 gold medals, and can't be athlete of the meet because, the distance runner, winning a couple week events that ain't got about 4 or 5 people in them at our conference meet. To me, that's yes, it is the simplest thing. Tally up the points, and whoever scores the most wins. Yeah, cool, whatever. But that's not really, to me, an athlete of the meet. I'm looking at somebody with 4 gold medals and somebody with 2 or 1 or whatever. The person with 4 that's the athlete of the meet. But it's like whatever stuff people vote on or things like that, I don't really concern myself too much with, to be honest. I know, like on the national level, we do coach, vote for like athletes and coaches of the year and things like that. And that's cool because your peers have to vote for you. So it's like, no matter what you did, everybody pays attention. So we know who these athletes are and who these coaches are. And yes, all of them are winners or whatever it may be, but your peers are going to vote for you or whoever else to win those awards. And I mean, that's kind of cool because you are recognized by like I said, your peers and people that do the same thing you do, and they've recognized like, okay, yeah, what you did was pretty phenomenal this year. And I definitely like that.
It's definitely a difficult thing to try to ascertain, who did what, and I can definitely see your point about the comping coach, because actually my alma mater, it's won 1 national championship, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that the year that they won, I think Coach Gibson only took like about, I think they said he only took like 6 or 7 athletes to the national championship and won.
Yeah, well, at least they won, so he would get recognized for sure. But even if I took 4 or 5 athletes and got 2nd place or 3rd place, and I'm looking at the teams with 15, 16 athletes entered in, and they got 17 entries, and they just edged us out by 2, 3, 4 points, and I only had 3 entries. That means that the kids I had were the best. And who was coaching them? I was coaching them directly. So hey, why you won Coach of the Year, but you don't even coach any of those kids that won that scored all them points. Right. It's just like me sitting here. We don't won the championship because the distance runners scored every single point, but they give me Coach of the Year, and I didn't coach a single point on the track.
Right. But, and I know, yeah, and I know coaches that feel a way about that too, because there's a coach that I want to nominate for a Hall of Fame here because his teams had won like 15. Under him, they won like 10 regional championships in a row in the toughest region in the state. But when I was talking to his peer coach, the other head coach in our program, he was like, "Nah, he kind of feels a way because on the boy, especially on the boys' side, his boys don't produce. We won state a couple of times, and none of the points came for this event."
Yeah, I mean, once again, back to the original, conversation with the credit and things like that. Yeah, you're the one in charge, so you should get the credit because hey, we got those points. I done hired this coach here to do exactly what it is that he's doing or she's doing. That's what I brought him here for. So, you should be producing because that's what I brought you here for. So, yeah, I guess you should be credited for that as well.
Right. Well, Coach, we've had a good long conversation. That's part of what the change for season 4 has been. I saw the success that Shannon Sharp has had with Club Shay Shay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want it to be, structured like it was in the past. I wanted to be more of a free flowing conversation about various topics. And so I think, this year has been a whole lot better. And I definitely appreciate, having people like you who have supported this particular program over the years. And shout out to Derek Bryant for the great job that he's done, helping me get you guys on this platform. And so I really appreciate everything that you guys have done. And I definitely look at what you've done with a lot of admiration. And because we talked about in the past show, you've taken Howard from places where it's never been to just astronomical spots as far as, especially on the women's side. Women are doing things that they've never done in program history, and that says a lot. That says a whole lot. And then you have men who are still producing, and so you're doing a astronomical job there because memory serves me correctly, you didn't really have any coaching experience coming into that job.
None at all. None at all. But it's not rocket science. I feel like when you come into college or any sort of area, that if you got to have some sort of leadership quality. And if you're able to do that, I mean, whether it's inspirational or aspirational, probably one of those two has got to be that you can get people to do what they need to do. And my job is to make sure they just get these kids to believe that they can do stuff that they never thought that they could do. And it helps because I was in their shoes at the same exact place doing the same exact thing and was able to, with far less than what they have now, and was able to make it happen. And then we've proven over the years that that's the case. And I mean, that's just a shout out to the original group of kids that came in, kind of when we first started, Jessica Goodbyes and Ozioma Scott and Nina Salee and Jessica Wright and that group of women that went to the NCAA meet and finished sixth in the 4x4, really putting us on the map and showing that you can do whatever it is that no matter what you want to do here at Howard when it comes to the athletic side of things. But I mean, once again, that starts at the leadership with Kerry Davis, my boss, that he came in. He wasn't an athletic director before. He was running HBO sports and things like that. So he knew what winning looked like and winners do with certain things. He came and got the best winner from Howard University's history. It put me in the seat to try to turn the program into a winner, and that's happened. So, like I said, it's just not one person or one entity that makes it happen. It's a whole bunch of people that make it go, because without that decision there, who knows what I'm doing with the programs like or anything like that, who knows. But I'm definitely thankful to be in the chair and to be making it happen and still being an impact for Howard University.
Right. And shout out to your athletic director, who was just, if not in actuality, at least in title, was promoted to VP status at Howard University. So shout out to him, because he put together a dynamic staff as far as all sports. And pretty much all of you have experience of success. Maybe not every year, but at least, some years, all of you have won championships since he's been there. And that says a lot as well, because there's a lot of programs that are not doing that. And when I say programs, I'm talking about total athletic programs. There's a lot of them that are not doing that. So there's some of them who are winning championships in maybe one or two sports. The other sports aren't doing as well, or so hats off to him for the job that he did creating that program at Howard University.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess that's part of what it means to be the Mecca. You know, certain expectations there at Howard that have to be fulfilled.
The academic piece has always been there. We just have the athletic piece now backfilling that and showing that, you know, like I said, a student athlete that you can be great at both. Athletics is the front porch to your university. Everybody's going to notice that and see that, you know, all over the place. And you want to make sure what they're seeing is great. You know, it's like with the meets that we go to. I tell the athletes, I don't want to have to scroll far down before I see Howard come up on the list. I need to be seeing, you know, Howard, the first thing you click on an event, I would like to see us in there, even at the biggest meets that exist. Because that once again, that shows like, oh, Howard, oh, shoot, I went to another thing. Oh, there's Howard again. It just puts in people's minds that Howard, this is what we're supposed to be doing. And like you said, with the Mecca, that's a standard of excellence, and that's what we want to maintain and have that, whether we're talking about on campus or in athletics.
And so as we prepare to wind down, I want to give you this opportunity to shout out to anybody you want to give shout outs to.
Well, I mean, the shout out's definitely going to be to the staff. That, like I talked about earlier, but the student athletes, of course, the men and women that without the student athletes, there is no program. You know, they believed in and they've put the program on their backs and have shown, like I said earlier, that you can be a great student and a great athlete here. We've had several that have transitioned to the professional ranks. You know, 99% of them have transitioned to being great in their field of study. You know, so we just need to you want to be great, come to Howard. You know, if you're a student athlete out there in the high school level and you want to have a great experience running fast and a great experience with a degree that is top notch, you know, Howard is the place for you to be.
Okay. All right. Well, with that said, I do want to thank you very much, Coach Oliver, for being with us, for talking to us and sharing your philosophies and some insight into track and field. And I also want to thank you, the audience, for taking time out to watch this episode of Chat with HBCU Champions. I do ask that you please share. I want you to also follow us and like this video, because a lot more people need to know about people like Coach Oliver. David Oliver, one of the greatest hurdlers in the history of hurdling, period. And the great job that Howard University is doing as far as athletics, so that young athletes who are excelling on the secondary level will know that maybe there's a place for them at the Mecca.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, with that being said, thank you once again, everyone, and have a blessed day.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Now I'm talking about young shakes. Chicago to represent. Jesse James. And this for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city. Dog, I ain't never been a jumpin'. If he thinking I'm a jump, watch him get his head lump. For my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gone first round. For my city. Dog, I ain't never been a jumpin'. If he thinking I'm a jump, watch him get his head lump. For my city. Cause I feel like I love her so much, like I owe her so much, but supplying her touch, I will always respect her, I will never neglect her. Bet you hear her naming like every one of my records. No, I'm not stunting, ain't no future in your frontin', right? Gotta get this money, watch me get it all night. Planet flying top flight, higher than space stations. That's why I gotta grind, cause I need it and I hate waiting.